As my son's 27th birthday is fast approaching, I started thinking about the topic of birthdays and autistic kids generally. Because I know that birthdays can feel hard for parents of autistic children. Not just emotionally, that's a big part, but also even practically. Things blow up, plans fall apart, and what should be simple and joyful often isn't. In the next few minutes, I want to talk about why birthdays often go sideways in some very specific ways, how to spot the hidden mismatches that create stress, and how small, thoughtful changes can make birthdays work better for your child. I want to start with a moment that has stayed with me. I worked with a mom of twins, and her daughter was counting down the days till her birthday, excited for every aspect. Her autistic son was already dreading it. He didn't like a house full of people, the gifts were overwhelming, but the worst part for him was the happy birthday song. He was anxious for weeks because he knew it was coming. So she tried something small. Instead of singing loudly the way everyone usually does, we practiced singing it softly, but only as much of the song as he could tolerate. This isn't about making him uncomfortable until he can tolerate the discomfort. It was about sharing the song with him in a different way. Same song, different volume. Within a few days, he realized that the happy birthday song wasn't so terrifying, and his distress dropped. But because these children were twins and the girl liked all of the fanfare about birthdays, Mom decided that in order to honor both children's wishes, it was okay to have one cake and experience for her daughter and a separate one for her son, both on the same day with the same people present. But her son was able to protect himself during the intensity of the celebration for his sister. So while the big group sang loudly for his sister and she enjoyed every moment, he stayed in his room with his iPad. Then later, after a few people went home, she brought him out, they had his cake, and sang very softly. She had never considered that option before. Some curiosity about what made it hard, some creativity to solve it, a few simple changes, everyone wins. Birthdays are hard in part because what we assume they're going to look like often doesn't match how autistic kids actually experience them. When those two things don't line up, stress shows up fast. I still have guilt over photos of my son at his 4th birthday party, looking so stressed out. I don't know who I thought I was pleasing with this party, but it wasn't him. So mismatch number 1 is external versus internal standards. Birthdays are usually loud, excited, high energy, but a lot of autistic kids experience that as overwhelming. So instead of asking, what's a birthday party supposed to look like, it helps to start with, what would my child enjoy? It sounds so simple and so obvious, and yet we sometimes still plan celebrations that are too much for our kids to handle. I've done it. That might mean softer singing like with the twins, fewer people, shorter celebrations, or spreading things out instead of doing it all at once. Mismatch number 2 is surprise versus safety. We tend to think that surprises are fun, but for many autistic children, surprises feel unsafe. So preparation matters. Talking through the day, what to expect, showing pictures of the place where it's being held or what it will look like. Practicing parts ahead of time, especially parts you think might be difficult for your child. Not to make it boring, but to make it predictable enough to feel safe. We want to get curious about our child's experience and then make thoughtful adjustments that reduce stress. That's the core of how I work with parents in my coaching program. We look at real everyday situations like this, not just to find strategies to help the child, but to make parenting feel more workable and sustainable in the process. Mismatch number 3 is age expectations versus real joy. Sometimes our kids are interested in things that are younger than their chronological age. Enjoying things peers have moved on from, such as a Bluey themed birthday party at age 10. This is one of those places that the gap becomes visible. So it's important to prioritize what actually brings our children joy versus what looks right from the outside. Again, that sounds obvious, but because birthdays only come around once a year, we think our child will just be able to handle it because birthday parties are fun. For example, that 4th birthday party that didn't go well, I had it at an OT gym. He loved the OT gym, but he didn't like being in there with 10 other children. Upon reflection, I guess I was thinking more about what the birthday party would look like than what his experience of it would be. So this is about just being aware of the ways in which we are trying to make it perfect from the outside. So we covered issues of logistics. Now it's time to talk about the emotional piece for parents. Even when you adjust things, even when the birthday goes smoothly, there can still be a lot underneath. That's the emotional piece. When my son was younger, after that 4th birthday party where he was miserable, we dialed birthdays way back. We kept them short. They were at home, sometimes only 15 minutes. Sometimes he was in pajamas. We sang quietly, we kept it small, and no kids, only his team of therapists. And he seemed okay. But I still remember fighting tears every year. Because even with those amazing people around us, therapists who showed up with care and love, I couldn't completely shake the feeling he has no friends. And this isn't what a happy birthday is supposed to look like. I was deeply grateful to that team, and it still hurt. Both things were true. Birthdays tend to be one of those markers, raising things we don't think about day to day. The expectations we didn't realize we were carrying. The places where development looks different than we imagined. The quiet comparisons that show up, whether we invite them or not. Most of this lives under the surface. It presses on that bruise we sometimes ignore that comes from the mismatch between long ago expectations and reality. What I've learned over time is this: hidden expectations stay hidden because they're uncomfortable. We don't feel free to say out loud that we're disappointed or that this is not what we pictured. And to be clear, I'm not saying disappointed in the child, I'm saying disappointed in the circumstance. When these emotions stay hidden, they heighten the tension. Having those feelings doesn't mean that you don't love your child with all your being. Both can be true. If you don't have a trusted thought buddy with whom you can raise these uncomfortable thoughts, perhaps you can share them in the comments. Know that when we share, we will undoubtedly help another parent who feels alone in their experience. Once you allow your feelings out of hiding, you can intentionally create an experience that matches your child's reality and feels good to you too. Again, birthdays often bring up more than we expect. If this connects to your experience, you're welcome to share what birthdays look like in your family. Not to explain, not to justify, just to be in conversation and let some feelings out of hiding. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for being here. See you in the next one.